Today's webinar is about the Itil value proposition. Itil, which is the Information Technology Infrastructure Library, or IT Infrastructure Library, is really the world's most well-known framework for IT service management. The framework itself is owned and maintained by an organization called Axelos, which is a joint venture between the UK government and Capita PLC. And Axelos recently released a document that provides an overview of the Itil value proposition, and I'd like to share that with you today. Now, if you have already read the Itil value proposition from Axelos, much of this webinar will be a review for you. Now, that being said, I don't want to only repeat what you could easily read in the value proposition. Instead, I want to try to bring that document to life with some real-world examples that I've seen with my clients. And through this, I hope to give some life to the theory in the value proposition. Let's first take a look at the agenda that I have set for today's session. There are actually three topics that I want to discuss in today's session. First, I want to talk at a very high level about the key capabilities and benefits that the Itil framework can provide to an organization. Next, I will drill down on some of the key achievements that an organization can attain through an Adopt and Adapt initiative of the Itil framework. And then finally, I hope to convey the importance of learning more about Itil and also share with you some ways an organization can benefit from the key Itil learnings. And then at the end of our session, of course, we'll have some time for questions and hopefully some answers as well. But that's our agenda for this session. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with that first topic. As I just mentioned, actually it looks like we're getting some weird things going here with our transitions, but that's okay. We'll work our way through that. But as I just mentioned to you, I want to start the main part of this session with a high-level overview of the key capabilities that can be gained through Itil. So for each of the key capabilities, I'm going to also share what some of the benefits are to an organization. These capabilities and benefits are all directly from the Axelos Itil value proposition. However, as I mentioned in my opening comments, I want to try to bring these things to life by also sharing some real-world experience that I've seen during the corporate consulting engagements with my clients about a few of these capabilities as we go along. So let's take a look at what the key capabilities are. Remember what I said earlier. Itil is the world's most well-known and most widely used IT service management framework. But how did it become so well-known and so widely used? Actually, there are more reasons than I can possibly cover in today's session. Nevertheless, there are 6 key capabilities that Itil provides to an organization that might just help us understand why it is so well-known and so widely used. First, Itil, or using the Itil framework, helps to support business outcomes. Even though Itil is a framework for IT service management, IT is not much without the business. Itil ensures that IT services are aligned with what the business needs as its outcomes. Itil is not about just delivering IT services, it is about delivering value to the business. Second, using the Itil framework helps to enable business change. It should follow that for IT services to deliver value to the business, those services must also be able to help change to meet its customers' ever-evolving needs. You know, technology changes, sometimes more frequently than any of us would like, and Itil helps the business change by ensuring an understanding of how changes in IT can help the business. Is using the Itil framework helps to manage risk in line with business need. Now, have you noticed a trend here? Right? Itil is not about just managing risks. It's about managing risk in line with what the business needs. There will always be risks to organizations, and many of those will be related in some way to the IT services that are consumed. The Itil framework knows this and has processes in place to manage those risks. Fourth, using the Itil framework helps to optimize the customer experience. And sometimes IT services are being delivered to external customers. Many times IT services are being delivered to internal customers. But following the processes in the ITIL framework will help the organization to optimize the experience that any of those customers has with the IT services being consumed. The fifth item on here is that using the ITIL framework helps to show value for money. And, we would not have much of a value proposition if we didn't have as a benefit to show some value for the money that's being spent on IT services. The ITIL framework takes a serious look at the financial side of IT to ensure that the business, and again, we're talking about the business as a whole, not just the IT department, that the business is getting value for the money they've invested. The sixth item is that using the ITIL framework helps the business and the IT service provider to continually improve. We already talked about enabling business change, but this goes even further. Continual service improvement is a key piece of the ITIL framework, and it looks to proactively find ways for both the business and the IT service provider to make better use of the IT services while showing even more value for money. So, very high level, these are the 6 key capabilities from the ITIL value proposition. But now, let's take a slightly deeper dive into each one of these and also hear about some real-world examples. So that first capability, and again, it looks like we're having some strange transitions going on here, but we'll manage our way through there. Again, technology. But the first capability I mentioned is related to the ITIL framework's ability to support business outcomes. And the question is, well, how can that be done? Well, one way that that can be done is this. ITIL supports the marketing and consumption of IT services. This is done by using the ITIL service catalog management process to improve communications, streamline the request process, and help your customers to understand and link the services you provide to business outcomes they care about. How about another way? ITIL ensures the quality of IT services matches customer needs and expectations. This is done by using the ITIL service level management process to define and agree specific and measurable service targets, understand how to best set up monitoring, measuring, and reporting, and help identify corrective action opportunities. All that sounds great, right? But how about some real-world examples of supporting business outcomes? So I want to tell you a bit about one of my clients that was struggling with onboarding new employees. Now, it doesn't really matter what industry you work in, onboarding new employees is something we all must do. And in this particular case, the client was going through a crazy growth spurt and was hiring a lot of new employees in multiple levels of the business. Now, when they hired employees, there were a few important pieces of technology that were needed. For example, each new employee needed a workstation or a laptop with certain applications installed, a phone, whether it was a landline or a mobile phone or sometimes both, access rights to certain resources on the network, and security badges for building access. Well, it was sometimes taking up to 2 weeks to get all of this for a new employee, which resulted in a lack of productivity for these new employees, not to mention some low morale for them during the first weeks of employment. In this case, the IT organization was not helping to support business outcomes in terms of onboarding new employees. So what did they do? Well, first, they did not change the world overnight. Implementing ITIL and its process framework takes some planning and some time. In this particular case, the organization decided to separate their request fulfillment process from their incident management process. Resources to handle these requests were assigned to ensure prompt response